Hello. All right. Hello, everyone. It's Darlene. There we go. Um, welcome. People are going to start arriving, all you mamas. And so I'm just going to sit and wait for a minute as people come. And Facebook has changed their way they show me the comments. Used to be on this side, now it's on this side. And it's also really hard for me to see who is here, because they just changed it. So anyway, oopsie. Um, so anyway, I don't see anyone here yet, but I know you are coming because I know you all want to talk about siblings and you want me to teach you why your kids fight and um, what to do about it, right? So as you get on, come on, and then tell me you're here because really I cannot see who's here at all. So, okay. Hi, Brianna. Thank you. So, say hi as you arrive because I don't know if anyone's there. It's like really weird. Hi, Dad. Okay, good. Oops, like I got lipstick on my teeth, you guys. What's going on here? Um, Diana's here. Okay. Your whole friend group, your mama tribe. Um, Kristen, my mama tribe. Cindy, yay. Thank you guys for telling me you're here because it does help because I cannot see anybody if you're here. Okay, this is my opening question. Danielle. Hi, Danielle. I don't know you, but welcome. I'm so happy to have you here. Okay, so my opening question is, what are you making for dinner tonight? And if you don't have any ideas, then just say I have no idea. But maybe in the comments you will be able to get an idea. And I wrote this question like an hour ago, and I actually still have no idea what I'm making for dinner. So post in the comments what you are making for dinner tonight, ladies. And just, as people are arriving, and then the comments will go in, and I'll keep track of all of it as you guys go through. So great. Nobody's telling me what you're making for dinner tonight. I can't move this situation. Oh my gosh, you guys. Facebook is being really weird. Okay, Deb, tortellini, chili, yummy. It's raining. Okay, Fresh Brothers pizza, like your plan, leftovers. That's what we might have. Okay, so as you arrive, friends who are coming, say what you're having for dinner. Tell us that you're here, and then I'm going to get into today's talk, which is about siblings, and we're going to talk about why kids fight. Right? That will be helpful. Ooh, Claudia's here and she's making chicken and shrimp fajitas and falafels. Diana, yum. Okay, so we're going to talk about why kids fight. There are 5 top reasons, not 10, 5 top reasons why kids fight. And then I'm going to give you some strategies about what to do, like how to solve, not to solve, but how to move these sibling conflicts into a place of more peace, more harmony, and giving you these tools and these strategies so that your home is less chaotic, right? Less bickering, right? So amen to that. Tina's here. They're making garlic steak with the kids. Nice. Okay, so I want you to finish this sentence. When your kids, so in your mind, think, when my kids are bickering or fighting, it means blank. So I want you to write down, what do you think it means when your kids are fighting? What do you think it means? When my kids fight, it means blank. So go ahead and write down what you think. So before I get into the why kids fight, I want to talk a little bit about our mindset around sibling conflict, because I want to clear out some of the thoughts and the myths that you might have about siblings and why they fight and all of that. You guys, my Facebook is all like talking to me. Okay, sorry. So I want you to think about, as you're typing in what you think it means when your kids fight, I'm going to give you some examples of thoughts that I hear from moms of what they think when their kids are fighting. So sibling fighting can be arguing, physically fighting, like actually, fighting or just arguing. It can be saying mean things to each other or shouting or bickering. So any of that is sort of, I'm calling that sibling conflict or sibling fighting. And when these situations come up, here's what moms are thinking. They're thinking, my kids should know better. They're thinking, this should be easier. My kids should know better and this should be easier. They're thinking, I can't handle this. This is too much. I can't handle it. They're thinking, oh my gosh, my kids are fighting and they're going to get hurt and I'm going to have to go to the hospital and this is an emergency and I need to stop it right now or something bad's going to happen, right? So they're starting to think of those thoughts. I better stop this, right? Moms are also thinking, my kids are never going to be friends. They fight so much now. When they're older, they're never going to love each other. They're not going to like each other. They're not going to be friends. And they're thinking these thoughts about the future in the present when they see a sibling conflict. And they're making it mean that their kids aren't going to be friends. Other moms will start thinking when their kids are fighting, this means I'm not a good mom, that I'm failing and that I am doing something wrong. That if I was a better mom, my kids wouldn't be fighting like this. So let me see what you guys are thinking when your kids are fighting. So Tina says she's thinking that when her kids are fighting, the close bond that she hopes for her kids, is not going to happen. So her brain is going to the future. When her kids are fighting in the present, her brain says, oh, this is predictive of the future. The future is going to be they're not going to get along. Kristen says, I'm afraid they fight because they enjoy it. So you make it mean that there's something maybe in their hearts that is cruel or something, right? So you make the behavior mean something about their character. Tell me where I'm wrong on that. Deb says it means maybe they're not compatible. Maybe they'll never get along, right? A lot of these thoughts are about the future or about our fears and anxieties about our kids' character. They don't feel heard by each other, Danielle says. Lots of feelings that aren't fair. Yeah, you're on a good track there. That's probably you're looking for the why they're fighting, Danielle, and you're absolutely right. Claudia's like, because they're twins and they compete with each other for everything. Yep, that's one of the reasons for the why they fight. Brianna says, when they are fighting, it's because they're not getting their way, and resentment when the younger sibling gets more attention. Cindy says, yes, ladies, you guys are catching on. So when we're thinking thoughts like Kristen had about her kids, when they're mean, like, are they enjoying it? When we're thinking thoughts like, oh, this means they're never going to be good friends, or I guess my kids aren't compatible. Those are thoughts that you have about sibling conflict. And what they do is they bring up emotion in us, like annoyed. Okay, I feel annoyed mostly when my kids fight, but annoyed, angry, scared. So those feelings of fear around the future or fear around our kids' character, that's a scared feeling. When we're panicking about an emergency situation, like maybe they're going to get hurt, then we're feeling panic. Some of us feel guilt. Hi, Jana. Some of us are feeling guilt. We're feeling like we're not good moms when our kids fight. So we're thinking, oh, look, my kids are fighting. That means I'm not a good mom. And then I feel guilty or embarrassed, or maybe I'm just frustrated. Like, they should know better. This is ridiculous. I'm done. These kids are pains in the butt and I'm done. So all of those are thoughts that produce all these feelings inside of us. And when we are feeling like that, like overwhelmed and angry and afraid and frustrated and judgmental and having all of those emotions, then your next response is going to be coming at the sibling conflict with a ton of energy, negative energy. And you're bringing all of your emotion and all of your thoughts into a conflict that's already occurring between two people. Can you imagine that in a different scenario if it wasn't your children? If there were two people fighting and all of a sudden you came and you brought in all of your energy and anger and frustration about their fighting to their fight? How would that even get resolved? So what I want you to learn to do, which is not easy, is to learn to clear some of your thoughts about the sibling conflict and recognize that it is just one moment in time. Hi, Joanna. It's just one moment in time. It doesn't mean anything about the future. It doesn't really mean a lot about the past. It's just right now. What is the way that you can respond in this moment to create the most peace? And what we're going to talk about today is getting your kids to do the most thinking. So if you want your kids to start doing thinking, you have to do it first by saying, this is not an emergency. I can handle this. My kids are going to be lovely friends when they grow up. Even if they're not, I can't control it. My kids are compatible or not, it doesn't matter. They live in my house right now. They got to get along. So you're going to approach these conflicts from a space of calm, finding thoughts and emotions that will bring you to that space where then you interact with your kids from compassion is ideal, but at least neutrality. Is that making some sense, ladies? So when we come at our kids are fighting, right? What that brings up in us is, I call it like the mama bear syndrome. So we already are like mama bears, right? We want to protect our young. And when we see them getting hurt, like it brings up that mama bear stuff. But when our kids are fighting with our other child, so like we have one kid and then they're fighting with our other kid, it's like mama bear on, crack or whatever. We just go absolutely bonkers because our brain cannot figure out who it is we're supposed to be protecting. The mama bear syndrome kicks in and then we get super chaotic in our heads. So I want to separate and relieve you from all of that because you don't have to make it all better. You don't have to solve the problem. You're going to learn today that your job is to be a guide for your kids to help them solve their problem. The sibling conflict, believe it or not, it's not your problem. It's a problem. And when you put yourself in the center of it, you end up creating more chaos and making it about you and not about them. So the more neutral you can be, the less mama bear craziness, the less sibling spiral craziness. So yeah, does anyone have any amens over there for me in the comments? Am I making sense? So funny to talk to myself, but I know you're there listening. Okay, so sibling conflict, I want to first tell you that it's totally normal, but not only is it normal, it's healthy. So sibling relationships are the safest relationships that your kids have to try out different things, to see how relationships work. When you're in your sibling relationship, you learn how hard to push and keep people from getting really, really mad. You learn what really, really mad looks like. You learn what it feels like to get hit, right? So you experiment, you learn what it feels like to hit. That's especially when they're little. Hi, Laura. And so your kids are in this relationship with their sibling, and it is one of the safest relationships that they'll know in childhood is the safest. And it's different than other relationships because your kids know that they are going to be in this relationship with their sibling no matter what happens. If you guys move town, they're still going to be in the same relationship with their siblings. Like Kristen, she moved to India, but only the siblings came. No friends came, no teachers came, right? Parents and siblings. No matter what sports team you're on, what school you go to, what class you're in, none of it matters because your sibling transcends space and time in childhood. They're a reliable relationship. And it's similar to parent and child, except in parent-child relationship, there's a little bit of a hierarchy, not a little, lot, okay, let's be honest. There's a lot of hierarchy, right? when you are in your when you're with your parent-child relationship, right? And so in the sibling relationship, that upper handedness does switch. Even though your kids might be a few years apart, they still have a different, it shifts who has the upper hand. And you can kind of see it where like your little one's like, ha 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 ha, you're in trouble over there, huh? Because you stole my cookie, right? So there is a mutuality in there. It's a peer relationship. Now, sibling relationships are very different from friendships in that a friend can decide to never talk to you again. There is an inherent risk in friendships that kids know that these relationships aren't as solid or as reliable as their relationship with their sibling. So they don't try out as many behaviors in class or with siblings as they would with their, in their classroom or with their friends as they would with their siblings. So the stakes are higher in friendships, and the sibling relationship is very safe. So that's one of the main reasons that your kids have a lot of conflict, is because they're trying out a lot of behaviors to see what works and what doesn't. Does anybody relate to that a little bit? Could you imagine what that is like for your kids, how they have this sibling relationship, and then you know what why it's different than the relationship they have with you or their friends? Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna drink some water really quickly because I'm talking fast. All right. So that's one of the basic reasons why your kids fight, is because it's safe. It's a safe relationship for them to fight in. Now, I want you to think about other reasons that your kids might fight. I'm going to give you 5 more, but I want you to start typing in why you think your kids fight. Like, if you look at the patterns that you are seeing in your home, then what do you think are the reasons that your kids are fighting? So you put your comments in there, and then I will tell you the answers, and you'll see if you got them right. Okay. So the first reason that your kids fight, that siblings fight, it's actually super basic. The number 1 and number 2 are the same concept, and that is boredom. So, Cindy wrote boredom at the same time I said it. That's so good. So boredom is there's 2 parts of it. There's 2 different ways that comes out. Okay, first off, boredom could be one kid is bored and restless and doesn't know what to do. So they're just an individual being like, I don't know, I don't want to read, I don't want to play this game anymore, I don't want to do anything. And so they go over and they pick on their brother or their sister or whoever, right? Their sibling. And that one child is bored, and they go and create a conflict because they want some entertainment. And the sibling is pretty reliable in that it usually entertains them, right? That's a pretty reliable entertainment. Like, I was trying to think of like a movie, whatever. You turn it on like a television, right? Laura says, my son says they fight because they're siblings, and that's what siblings do. Yeah, well, let's figure out why. So 1 is boredom. That is when one kid goes and bugs the other. Now, I want you to know really quickly, it's very important. When that happens and you see it, you see one kid doing, like, they're reading or they're drawing or they're, having a great time playing with the dog, whatever. And then you see the other sibling come over and start like kicking them, or I don't know, grabs their toy or throws their something at them. Okay, that's not a sibling conflict. That's not. That's one kid that needs a limit. And it is your responsibility as the adult to put a limit there and to go in and do some connection. Like, hey, I saw you throw that shoe at your brother's head. I wonder if you were feeling bored. I wonder if you're feeling jealous that your brother's reading. I wonder, you're going to offer that connection and then set a limit and say, so you can be in this room as long as you don't bug your brother or, bug your sibling. So that's a different scenario. That's where one kid needs a limit. So that's boredom. Boredom number one. Boredom number two is when, this is really true for kids under 11. So you have two kids playing, they're playing together, or they have an activity that they're doing, playing Legos or drawing or whatever, playing on the trampoline, whatever you got going on. And everything's going fine, and then all of a sudden it's not. Have you noticed that? And that means that they got bored of the activity, but your kids haven't been taught well enough yet how to change activity seamlessly. They rely on you to constantly like cruise director them and be like, okay, now do this, now do that, now do this, now do that. And so when you have that kind of pattern, and then around 30 minutes to 45 minutes, depends on your kids, you'll notice that there'll be some kind of conflict between the two of them. And what they're doing is they're looking for you to come and fix it, give them a new task, a new activity, and solve their problem, solve their boredom. So boredom number one kid needs a limit. Boredom number two, your kids need a new activity. And so that's the second reason. Now, as I go through this, if you have any questions, type them in and I'll come and look at them. Okay, the third reason, this is when we get into the nitty-gritty. The third reason that kids have conflicts is big feelings, okay? So when your kids just have big feelings, it's going to come out through their behavior. So if your sibling relationships are a really easy place to blow off steam for your kids, it's an easy place for them to express some of that unexamined emotion. We say unexamined emotion comes out in unpredictable behavior. And so when your kids have a lot of big feelings, it's going to come out through sibling conflict. And when we used to go to school, remember back then when we used to take our kids to school? Wasn't that nice? But you would pick them up and they'd get in the car and you'd start to notice them like having conflict in the car, like right away. And that is an example of big feelings. Big feelings from school, big feelings from a hard day, just a lot going on in their emotional life. And then they come and then the sibling is like, easy place to take it out. Is that making some sense? So when you see that, that's an indication to you that these are just big feelings and they probably need some coaching about the feelings. So the fourth reason, we got boredom, big feelings, right? So boredom, big feelings. And then the fourth one is underlying resentment. I think one of you said that about it here. Who wrote that? But basically that our kids have underlying resentment towards their sibling. Oh, it was the competition one. I think that was Danielle's. That our kids have feelings about each other. So they compare themselves to each other and they compare how you interact with their sibling, and that they have thoughts about that. And then that comes up in feelings like jealousy or insecurity or just feelings of hurt. And the thoughts that drive those behaviors are like, this isn't fair. Well, I think literally one of you guys said this isn't fair. Another one is, he doesn't like me, she doesn't like me, they don't like me. Just thinking that your kids, the siblings don't like each other and they're hurt. They feel hurt by the way that they're being treated by the sibling, and they hold that resentment. The thought, my mom likes her more, or my mom likes them more, that's like a thought that kids actually have. And they could come up with a lot of evidence to prove it in their minds, right? Doesn't need to be true. It's just thought that's true to them. They might be comparing, like we said, she's better at that than me, or they're better at that than me. And they might feel jealous or insecure. Or they might have really big feelings that are expressed like, I hate him. I hate them. I hate her. I hate her. Okay? So that, if they don't have a place to express that, that resentment is going to create a pattern of sibling conflict in your home. And you're going to have overwhelming sibling conflict because there is this deeper root of resentment that is not being resolved or being even discussed. Joanna says, always in the car. Yeah, they're worrying about our kids not liking each other. Yeah, okay. So this underlying resentment is sometimes part of your fear that they don't like each other. Tina said, I'm afraid our kids don't like each other. And they might not because they have this underlying resentment. So when this is the case, of course you're going to have sibling conflict. And I'm going to, how do you resolve deep resentment? I'm going to tell you right now. Okay. So when it comes up in a sibling conflict, like he throws a shoe, he throws it back, he says, you're stupid, I hate you. And then he's like, well, you're dumb and your teacher thinks you're stupid, right? Whatever they say and do, right? The sibling stuff. So in the moment, I'm going to give you strategies for just kind of moving that moment forward. But the deeper underlying resentment is an opportunity for you to have what I call connection coaching. And this is a moment when you would later go with your child when they're not with their sibling and you would say, hey, maybe you wouldn't say hey, but I say, earlier today, I heard you say, I hate you to your brother or to your sister. I wonder if you're feeling really hurt, right? Think about if someone says, I hate you, what are their feelings? Just making guesses. I wonder if you're feeling hurt. I wonder if you're feeling sad about your brother or your sister. I wonder if you're feeling angry. You know, word to the wise, avoid using the word jealous because it's like you want to, with connection coaching, you want to think of it as a big wound. So especially with siblings, some of this stuff is kind of deep inside and it taps into your kids' deeper feelings of insecurity and not measuring up. And so you would never have a wound and go right into the center of it and try to scoop out the dirt, right? You would probably very carefully clean from the outside and sort of tenderly address that. So that's what we're doing in connection coaching, especially around siblings, is giving them a chance to air some of their feelings about their sibling and being able to say, I hate him. Now, what happens to moms when they hear their sibling, their child, say about their other child, I hate him? It's super easy for mama bear to kick in right there. And you can tell me if you agree, but it would be very easy at that moment to say what? No, you don't. You don't hate him. You love your brother. What are you talking about? You love your sister. You know, you love your sibling. That's not a nice thing to say, honey. You shouldn't be thinking that. And we start to argue and defend. You think you love him more. No, I don't. I love you the same. How could you think that? We get like offended by when our kids speak their truth and we try to argue with their perception of reality. Like arguing with a 6-year-old is never a good idea, but especially when they're talking about their feelings. This isn't the time to go all logic on them, really, ever. You shouldn't. But in this moment, it's like being able to say, tell me more. Tell me about your brother. What do you hate about him? Use the language right back. What do you hate about him? What happened that made you so mad? And what you'll find is that they think it's so big, bad, and scary, and they've been so scared to tell you because they don't want to get in trouble for saying like the H word or whatever. Or, they are deeply sad and hurt, and there may be some tears, like if you have teenagers and they need to talk about some deeper resentment with their sibling, you know, you will find that there's not as much depth of resentment as you are afraid of. That it really is just a little airing out is enough. So it doesn't have to be, it's not going to open up like, I don't know, I'm thinking of, isn't Little Mermaid, like the big black thing that comes out? Like, it's not that scary. We tend to avoid these conversations because we're really afraid to have them because we don't want to know the darkness that lives inside our kid. But when you avoid it, do you think the darkness goes away? Like, no. It needs to come out into the light, and then when you look at it, you're like, oh, that's not really that bad. That's what you were thinking. And you can, even if you're real neutral, you can say, well, is that always true? Can you think of an example where that didn't happen? Do you remember feeling this way every day or just today? So you're able to ask these kind of questions to guide your children towards a new way of thinking. Is this helping you guys? Some heavy, big stuff we're talking about here. So resisting that tendency to defend and argue with them and just trying to stay as neutral or compassionate as you can when your child is sharing their thoughts and feelings. This is true all the time, but when it's about siblings, it can be really, really charged. Yeah? Okay. All right. So the fifth reason, okay, we had boredom, individual boredom, group boredom. We had, what was the reason? Sorry. Big feelings, of course, big feelings in general, or big feelings about their sibling, underlying resentment. Like, what if they don't know they have the resentment, like just because they were bored? Yeah, you could offer that. Deb's question is, basically, my child appears to be resentful that the other child exists in the world. So you can offer that as a thought to your child and say, I wonder if you're thinking your life would be better without your brother or without your sister. And then they would say, yeah. And you say, well, tell me all the things that would be better. Right? You're just like, you're in the space. Yeah, you're right. Your life would be better. Tell me about it. And then as they get through it, you'll be able to be like, yeah, so is there any good thing about it? Is there anything good? You don't have to switch thoughts, but you might offer a new thought, which is like, sometimes it sucks and sometimes it's great. That's a thought. So after we listen to their thoughts about why they hate their sibling, do we then offer logic or just listen? That's what I'm kind of talking about right now, is like being able to say, sometimes you have to, this is ninja parenting, right? So you kind of have to like read the room. Maybe it's just enough to let it be there, and where your child is like, you know, yeah, I just needed to say all that. Like, maybe that's enough. But if your child's real stuck in their resentment, you may want to be able to offer some perspective. But as questions and as new ways of thinking. If you're coached by me, right, then I want you to learn to do that to your child. The questions that I ask you sometimes, like, why do you think that? Why do you do that? How could it be different? Right? You're going to start to learn to ask your kids the same questions. Like, is that always true? Right? So you can offer some perspective taking, but people cannot perspective take when they are feeling defensive or unheard or undervalued, unappreciated. If you have any sort of negative feeling and you're not feeling felt, you're not going to be able to take anybody else's perspective. Perspective taking requires a level of empathy that you cannot give unless you have experienced it. It's a long learning curve to learn how to be empathetic, right? Here comes dogs. I'm on a call, honey. No. Bye, everybody. You guys, real life. Okay. All right. Okay, fifth reason. Yes, ready? Okay. The fifth reason is the one you have the most power over. So this is should be encouraging to you. So the fifth reason that kids fight is habit. They're just in the habit of having conflict. It's a relational habit. You've probably had a relational habits with your own kids, with your own spouse or partner. Um, so this is what I see most of the time. I know everyone has, hi, Kevin. Yeah, oops. Yeah. I don't know what happened there. Anyway, okay. So this is what I see. The kids are fighting, and then mom comes in and she breaks it up because she wants it to end and she's so annoyed and she has big feelings and she's afraid and she has all these situations in her head. So she comes in and then she is like, separates everybody because of her own frustration and anger and fear. So kids fight, mom comes in, separates everyone, and solves it, right? But then an hour later, they're fighting again. And this is what I see with moms who are like, my kids fight all day. And I would say there's underlying resentment, right? There's big feelings that aren't being coached, some boredom. Okay, there's those reasons. But there's also this big one where you are part of the problem. I'm talking so, you're the problem. But that there's a pattern and you're part of that pattern. And so when you want to shift your kids out of a relational habit, that means that you need to get out of that relational habit as well. And you're going to shift how you interact with them. And that's what the rest of this training is going to be about, the next 20 minutes. So the 5 reasons: boredom, big feelings, underlying resentment, and habit. So I want you to post in the comments, like, what do you think the reason for your siblings right now, especially in the quarantine, like, what do you think is going on? If you had to pick one, what's the root reason for most of your kids' conflicts? So post that in the comments, and I want to hear what you're thinking. Okay, so this training is about changing how you interact when your kids fight, right? So I said you're going to learn all the things that are reasons why your kids fight, and now what to do about it. And so the what to do about it is changing your interaction with them. So this is what goes on. Deb says all of the above. Okay, I like it. So I'm going to come back to those comments. So listen, when you intervene and you solve the conflict for your kids, they are not learning how to think and solve conflicts. In the beginning, we said that the sibling relationship is great. Conflict is great because it teaches you how relationships work. But if you have this beautiful sibling relationship and your mom keeps coming in and teaching it and telling you what to do and how to solve it, that's a missed opportunity in your lifetime of how to solve conflict peacefully and learning how to speak what you're feeling and what you want and saying all of that. And so when you get in the way because you have fear about how they're going to act when they're big, or because they're going to hurt themselves, or because you think it means you're a bad mom, then you're actually creating a dynamic where your kids are going to keep fighting because they expect you to come in and solve them. It's a missed opportunity, and they're not learning how to solve them. So the pattern continues over and over and over again because you haven't taught them the skills of how to solve their own conflicts. Sibling fighting, becomes an easy way for your kids to get attention, because who shows up? The mama bear, right? So boom, attention. That's great. Kids love that. They get entertainment from their sibling and you. Like, you're pretty exciting when you come into the room all mad, especially right now in quarantine. They're so bored. They're like, this is great. My mom is like better than, I don't know, Daniel the Tiger or whatever they're watching. And the sibling conflict is a great release of all their big feelings. So right now, their sibling conflict works for them because it doesn't cost them anything, but it brings them benefit. So if you did like a cost benefit analysis on your kid's sibling conflict, like it's working for them. It's not working for you. So we want to make it work for you and work less for them so that they learn how to solve their own conflict. Right now, your sibling conflict, easy dopamine. Boom, boom, boom. Your kids, it's great for them. Not in the long term. All the things you're afraid of in the future, you know, if you keep this pattern up, your kids probably won't like each other because they have all this underlying resentment that they've never had any chance to deal with. So giving your kids an opportunity to solve their conflict is going to be the shift that you're looking for in your home. So let's talk about how to do that. I want to see what everybody is saying. Big feelings, feeling trapped. Yeah, people have big, big feelings right now, Jana says. Karen says boredom. Yeah, she's like, maybe I need to switch the activities more sooner. So I know Karen and I know how old her kids are. So your kids need to switch activity every 45 minutes. And you're probably seeing that. Joanna says big feelings. Cindy says all five. Habit, resentments and habit. Yeah. Dig out those resentments, Tina, and you change that habit. Mostly boredom, Diana says. Deb says resentment. Brianna says big feelings. Mom TV. Yeah, we're Mom TV. Yeah, Tina, you told me that before. Yeah, Mom TV. We're very entertaining. Okay. So let's talk about how to do it. Yeah. The good news is right now, the way you're intervening, most likely you're rescuing your kids from themselves, okay, from their own conflict. And when you stop doing that, your kids are going to have less conflict. So at this point, if this is you, if this kind of feels like it's resonating with you, then these strategies will help you. So right now you're in like a judge role. I think of it like the entire criminal justice system. So it's like, first you're the detective, like, what's going on? And then you're like the jury, like, let me listen to all the sides. And then you're the judge, you're like, oh, this is what's going to happen. Okay. So I want you to stop being part of the criminal justice system with your children. Oh, and then you're like the bailiff, like carrying them off. And then you're the jailer when they're in timeout. I could go on with this metaphor. Then they have to get out on bail by making a promise. You guys, stop me. Okay, so I literally only have, I want you to move from the judge role, and I went all the way with that. But if that's kind of how it is, like, I don't want you to be part of that at all. That's not your role. I want you to think of yourself more as a guide, right? Like you know the way out, and you're going to guide them towards it, but they still have to do all the work to get to the resolution, right? To get to the conflict on the other side. So a guide, you don't need to know all the things that have happened before you get to this point and you're moving forward. The guide doesn't need to know like how you got there and where you parked and like whether you brought your snack in your backpack and your water bottle's full. I'm thinking of like on a trail. It's like the guide doesn't need to know all that. The guide's like, here we are. This is what's happening. Where should we go? And you kind of know we're going to go that way, but where should we go? Okay. So you're the guide. Now, before we get into any of the nitty gritty, I want to say one thing that's very important. And this is that in your home, you are responsible for making sure everyone stays safe. In your home, that's your job. So if your kids are not wrestling, right? But like if they're fighting, if they're hitting each other, okay, I want you to step in because everyone stays safe. I want you to step in with that language in a space of authority. If you work with me, you know I often have to stand up when I talk about this. It's like I say, everyone stays safe here. We will talk about this when we're all safe. We will talk about this when we're calm. You're using a voice of authority. You're still neutral. You're still not in judgment of like, you're so mean, you shouldn't have hit him. None of that's in your head. Right now, everyone stays safe. This isn't safe. We're stopping. Right? Like a lifeguard with the whistle. Okay? And everyone has to get out of the pool. That's how it is. Like danger. Okay? You're not always in danger though. Your brain is tricky. Tricks you into thinking of future danger. No. Your kid is hitting your kid. Stop that. Don't let that go on. But if it's wrestling and roughhousing and like there's giggle cry, okay, that's not, no one's in danger. So you have to use your best judgment here, but I'm also very clearly saying that I don't want you to allow your children to hit each other. Okay, I said that. Disclaimer. Everyone stay safe. You guys are all safe. We're all safe. So safety also means not getting emotionally berated. So if you have older kids, like you say you had like a 15-year-old and a 10-year-old, and your 15-year-old was like, swearing at your 10-year-old. No, nope, everyone stay safe. Those are some big feelings you're showing. You're showing me your big feelings. Those feelings are fine. Everyone stays safe. We will talk to you when you're calm. And you're going to separate from physical abuse and emotional abuse. I use the word abuse because that's what I'm talking about. Okay, everyone's calm now, right? All right, so how do you do it in a normal sibling conflict, roughhousing, squabbling, bickering, stuff like that? The first one, you're going to be so annoyed with me, but the first thing you do is nothing. I want you to learn to not get involved, or get involved, allow more time to pass, allow things to play out a little bit. And I'll tell you a really quick story. When I was learning to do this with my kids, I was like a run in and solve all the problem mom, because I was so afraid that my older one was going to hurt my little one. And I like irrationally afraid of it. And I would run in. And then I recognized that I was the problem, that I was not helping my older one learn how to manage his big feelings. So I remember this in this house, running to our playroom and then stopping at the door to the room before I ran in and going like, and like not counting, but actually calming myself so that when my next interaction with them was coming from that guide space, right? Not the cop. And being able to be like, what's going on in here? Like, Mary Poppins, what's happening? So doing nothing is something, because you're calming yourself and you're watching, like paying attention, narrating a little bit, like what's going on here? Is this one kid needing a limit? Is this two kids having a conflict? So you're getting neutral, you're watching, you're paying attention, and but you're not really doing anything. You're not saying anything. Okay, that's the first step. Then the second one is where you limit set, right? So this is the way it looks in siblings, is you're going to notice if the tension is getting higher. So that's your cue that you're going to get involved. If the tension is getting higher, or if one kid shows up and says, nah, 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 then that's your cue, right? You could say to the one that, if you have one that constantly does that, you could say, oh, sounds like you guys have a problem. I'll be happy to help in 3 minutes, right? And like letting them, you let me know. You go try and you come back if you need help, so that you're training that person that, oh, this is your problem. Go solve it. Come back if you need help. I'll be right here. Or I'll walk with you and see what's going on and help you. But like, I'm not going to go yell at your sibling. So if one kid shows up, or you just hear that the tension is getting higher, you will then come in and you will say, you two or three, you three or two, sound mad at each other. I will listen as long as you speak quietly and one at a time. So you're going in and saying, I want to help. I am here. I am your guide. I will help you through this problem, as long as everyone is calm and quiet. And then you be quiet. You say your limit, and then you just say that one sentence. Let's 2 sentences. Sounds like that you two are mad. I will listen as long as you speak quietly and kindly and one at a time. And then you wait. And then they start talking to you at the same time. And you're like, oh, I have to come back. I'm happy to help, but I'll come back in a minute and see. Happy to help as long as everyone is, speaking one at a time. I promise, when you do this a few times, you're not going to have a conflict anymore. They're going to be like, what happened? And then they'll just start to like play something else. They'll just shift. It will be enough to shift it out because they're not getting all the things they wanted and they don't want to do the work of solving the conflict. They actually don't want to do that because it's annoying, right? So you come in, you two sound mad at each other. I will listen as long as you speak quietly and one at a time. And Deb's like, even if it sounds like they're murdering each other, yeah. You come in with that energy, Deb. Huh, you two sound mad. I'll be happy to help as long as you speak kindly to me. Or as long as you speak one at a time, as long as you get off your brother. Okay? Then you're going to reflect, right? So what's the listening look like? So then they start talking, and you're going to go, okay, one at a time. And then you listen. You tell me? You tell me. Okay, you tell me again? Okay, you tell me again. You don't really care. You're not trying to figure out the facts here. You're not trying to solve a problem. This is not, NCIS. This is just like you getting the gist, actually just letting them get it out. And then you already know, you're like, oh, it sounds like you both want to use the purple crayon and there's only one purple crayon. What are you guys going to do? So you're just going to reflect back the problem. And, usually it's about space or it's about the property rights and space. And Brianna just asked a question about the dynamic of 3 kids and how tricky that can be when they're all getting along. So it's like, she says, when the third one comes in and chaos erupts, I would suggest to you that means your third one is needing a limit. Now, it could be it's the younger sibling and you have expectations of the older ones to play the younger one, and that might not be a fair expectation for children to babysit other children. But you can decide who needs the limit. Is it the older two or the other two? Might not be the age, it might just be two. And say, you two can continue playing as long as you include the third. Or third, you may play as long as you join the game as it is being played. So those are specific like limits that you need to set in order to create peace. And then if there's still sibling conflict, that's when you become that guide. I hope that helped. At what point do you do threats? Anita, that's funny. If you've been around my work, I don't use threats. We always use limits, right? So being able to say, I'd be happy to serve dessert. I've heard this phrase. I don't use it, but like, I'll happy to serve sweets to kids who are sweet to each other. Technology and sibling conflict doesn't make any sense unless the conflict is around technology. So using bait, like sweets and like snacks and screens are, they're not going to result in the long-term parenting shifts that you want when you use threats and takeaway and timeout. But that's a whole nother topic. So you reflect back. You say, okay, so here's what I'm seeing, right? What are you guys going to do, right? And then usually that's enough. Reset, start again. And you'll just see how it goes. They've solved their problem. They've moved forward. You didn't get into it. It didn't even seem like a big deal. It was just like, okay. Anita, I'm new and should have used limits instead of threats. Yeah. So the limit, it's fine. The limit is like, it would be more like a consequence later when you are doing restitution, if your kids cause you a problem and then you don't have energy to serve dessert because of all the fighting earlier. So that's going to make sense in a minute. Okay, so reset and start again. Now, sometimes your children, the conflict is escalated. It's super big, right? And it's not like safety, but it's just everyone is too charged up. And so I want you to be able to say, I see two angry children, or if you have three, I see three angry children. We will talk about this after a 5-minute separation break. Who is going where? Or you could say, you go there, you go there, you go there. Offering choice is awesome because kids love power. But then if you have three, they'll be like, but I want to go to that room. You don't want to create more conflict. You're just like, everyone is taking a break and we're going to come back and talk about that, in 5 minutes. Or 2 minutes, or 1 minute, or 10 seconds. It doesn't have to be like a long amount of time. It's just like, separate. It's like go to your corners, like in boxing. So when you see it very, very escalated, I want to give you permission to separate. But then when you come back, you would set your limit again, which is I will listen as long as you speak one at a time, and going right into that. If they don't solve the problem, just want to move on, yeah, great. Do you have to wait until they come up with a solution? No, just let them move on. It's so beautiful because sometimes you have to sit in it for a bit because there is a lot of conflict and they might even have big feelings. And in that listening is some of that connection coaching. If you're, able to do that, to say like, well, I hear you saying, that he was really mean to you and spit on your face. So are you feeling sad? Right? So you're naming and narrating and connection coaching in the middle of that conflict. So sometimes that conversation where everyone is talking about what they need to say is big, and there's a lot there, and it does need to be resolved. But most of the time, sibling stuff is just habit, right? It's blowing off steam, it's boredom. So shifting them into that space is enough to just move the moment along. I'm a big fan of moving moments along. What is the thing I need to do right now to move this moment forward? And then if I have a pattern, I go back and I think, what the heck's going on there? What can I do? What limits do I need to set? What do I need to change in my family? Okay, I have 3 minutes. So I want to get to that. So Tina says there's a lot of snide remarks and conflict at dinner. And so that would be more of limit setting about what you expect at your table. You're welcome to sit at this table and eat dinner with us as long as you speak kindly. I hope you get enough to eat tonight. And then 1 or 2 missed meals is usually enough. Okay, so I want to go into restitution real quick. So when your kids have caused a problem, a big part of the parenting path is that they solve that problem. They fix their mistakes, not by timeout takeaway, but by doing something to fix the problem that they've caused. So if your child spit on their other child and caused that problem, we would want that child to make restitution. Traditionally, at least in the American culture, saying sorry is usually the end all of it. Say sorry, 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 sorry. And everybody's, okay, fine. I like to say sorry is a great place to start. So you would say, what else can you do to make it up to your sibling? You could get a napkin and wipe their face. You could get a Band-Aid. You could give them a hug. You could make their bed. You could get them a glass of water. For older kids, you could bring in their trash cans. You could, do their chore for emptying the dishwasher. You could watch them play video games for 10 minutes. You could listen to them talk about whatever the heck they want to talk about. So doing an act of service is a huge part of learning how to resolve conflict, and it actually then prevents conflicts from happening because it just becomes not worth the fight. That's kind of the goal. So you want to have them make it up to the sibling, but then they also need to make it up to you if they've created a lot of conflict, right? Like a little tit for tat, and you're like, ah. But if they've been fighting all day and there's a lot of anger and frustration, and you're like solving conflict and helping them here and going in there and separating, and like that's a huge energy drain on you. And so I want to give you the tool of restitution and saying to your kids, when I am involved in solving, in guiding you in these problems, it takes me away from the thing I was doing, which you can make it up, but like you're like, I was emptying the trash, I was loading the dishwasher, I was cutting these onions. Like make it all be about work. Like don't be like, I was watching Netflix. um, it could be like I was resting, I was napping, I was talking to my sister on the phone, right? Whatever you're doing. And then you say, so it interrupted that. And then asking your kids, how are you two, or you three, or you five, however many children you have, how are you all going to make that up to me? The lost time and lost energy. What can you do to make that up to me? I don't know. Then you can come up with some ideas. Now, what ends up happening is your kids have a habit, right? And they fight when they're bored. But when it causes problems for them, you're going to find that they're going to be like, it's not even worth it. I'm not going to fight with her. Forget it. Shh, dude, be quiet, be quiet, be quiet. She's going to make us do chores. Okay. Your kids will start to self-monitor and self-correct, which is what you want, right? You want to teach them personal responsibility, have them take personal responsibility, and then over time they learn I'm not going to do that anymore. So what I'm teaching you, this is ninja level parenting. Okay. This is really like, I don't ever teach siblings because it requires so much skill. But I felt like right now you guys needed it because we're all like with our kids all the time. So first, give yourself tons and tons of grace. You're not going to do this right, and that's okay. 100%. Getting as neutral as you can, solving less, asking more questions, you're on your way. So, just give yourself grace and just keep kind of like implementing when you can and seeing how it goes and all of that. So this is what we do when I coach you, is really getting you into that space where you have like ninja level parenting, and it takes a while. So parents who work with me, we work for at least 3 months together because that's kind of how long it takes to see the shift in your family. So if you've ever been curious about working with me, if you're like, I want to talk to her every week, like about my kids and my family, and have her tell me what to do with my 3 children, like, yeah, you should talk to me. So you can post in the comments, free session, and I will talk to you about having a free session with me where I'll listen. You can tell me all about your family, and then I'll help you see kind of what is keeping you from getting the peace that you want, and I'll talk about working with me. So that's free session. Put that in there. And then the last thing I just wanted to tell everybody, like, listen, we are going to get through this. This is an unprecedented time, but there will be an after. There will be a point when you can go out to dinner with your friends, where your kids can have a birthday party, where your kids can have play dates again. There will be an after. So in the meantime, I want you to rely on this group, show up here, hang out with us, and lean on your mama tribe. There's a group of mamas in here today that are like a mama tribe, and they're parenting together and they're being trained by me together. So they're like going to be a ninja mama tribe. So rely on your mama tribe, and then come to happy hour. It's free. It's on Tuesdays, and it's like amazing coaching and great support. So I'm going to do that all the way through the quarantine, whenever that ends. So you're not alone. You have me, you have each other, you have this tribe. And if you need more support, then you just tell me that you need more support, and I can help you. And I think Cindy, she said, yes, she's amazing. Do it. I appreciate that, Cindy. It's so fun to work with all my moms. And thanks for coming to Sibling Workshop. Woo! All right, bye, ladies. Thanks for hanging out with me all day in this workshop. I'm so happy to see you all. Thank you. Ninja Mama Tribe, Deb. Yeah, you are. Ninja Mama Tribe. It's like ninja parenting skills. All right, I'm going to hop off because apparently my husband needs me. Okay, bye, everyone.